I believe the word recovery has become more aligned with snake oil selling than it has done the reality, which is sitting below your MRV and helping yourself maybe just teeter back below it if you do push beyond it a little bit. Because the things that we know that can actually impact recovery, scientifically speaking, only have a marginal impact on what you're doing above and beyond your actual training programming and outputs in terms of fatigue anyway, don't we? So what are your highlights from this world currently? What are the things that you've had to fight hardest against in the world of recovery on the internet?
I'd say probably the hardest. There's two things I'd put as the hardest. Number one is the scale of benefit that people get from things like you were just mentioning. Like, let's just pretend, for instance, ice baths are this wonderfully magical benefit that do help everyone. Pretend. How much do they help? Like in research, when they're comparing this, generally we see that if they do offer benefit, it is so marginal that they can barely detect it. And so a challenge arises where, like, you see someone of significant authority like Joe Rogan or Wim Hof talk about it, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do that because this expert told me. And so then you get more buy-in, which we know the placebo effect increases with your greater buy-in. And so then you're not necessarily getting the specific effect from ice bath, but because you just believe in it. And so that would be number one. And then number two is understanding the difference in time scales, because what helps you today will not necessarily help you tomorrow, and what helps you tomorrow may impact your ability to adapt in the long term. And these are things that can be very difficult to comprehend, but an example is the ice bath, because if, for instance, your situation, like if you were doing something like the squat 500, run a 5-minute mile again, and you wanted to crush it, it would be a reasonable choice to go and have an ice bath after the mile, to go and then have a little bit of decreased inflammatory response, decrease the swelling, everything from that hard effort run, and then go back and then properly warm up for the squat. Viable option. The challenge is that most people don't consider that what we see is with this decreased inflammation that you have reduced effects, positive effects for your adaptation benefits from running. And so if you regularly do this, you're going to have lower amounts of adaptation to the activities that you want to do. And so you don't improve your endurance as much. You don't get as strong. You don't increase your hypertrophy as much. And we see this across pretty much every kind of quote unquote recovery modality that people think is really cool. Like sleep is the one that stands out that, you do more and it's always better. Generally, I'm sure there's some outliers. In contrast, it's like, compression boots, massage even has some negative effects in some situations, and ice bath, cold therapy, all these different things can have some negative effect in the long term for people because they reduce positive things that we view as negative, like inflammation.
Physiologically speaking, being the key detail, because
Yeah.
I do think that there are. I think the easy win that comes with an ice bath and that willingness to step into resilience is a big benefit, and that's a great way to start your day. It's supercharged caffeine, but I do think that a lot of people have taken a lot to. I mean, the whole work hard, recover harder trope that you often see coming out of somebody's mouth with their chin bobbing above some ice cubes is kind of where I believe this has spiraled out of control a little bit, because it's the lack of focus on doing the basics consistently well over a long and sustainable period of time isn't nearly as exciting. And that means that for those that are looking to engage with forward motion, the things that are more front facing to them, that are easier to access through stimulations on screens left, right and center, is not doing the basics well over time, because that's not nearly as sexy, is